the first place you want to go to, like I said, is savings. The next place I would go to is cash value of life insurance, because you're not taking any money out of the market. You're not ruining your chance of recouping. And you can keep it out as long as you want. Because of the way it works, there's still some growth actually in the account. Not going to go into the details too much, but that would be the second place that I would pull from.
Okay.
Third would be a taxable investment, so non-qualified investment. There are no penalties on that. And as far as taxes, there'll be a combination of ordinary income and capital gains, so there'll be some tax benefits to that. And the market's down, so there'll be less taxes than usual.
Mm-hmm.
Not ideal because you're locking in losses. So I would take what you need, kind of dollar cost average out. So even if you say, oh, I'm going to need this for the next 3 months, don't take out $15,000 now. Take out $1,000 this week.
Okay.
Take out $1,000 next week. Whatever it is, so that ideally you can be taking it out when the market bumps up for a day or so.
Mm-hmm.
The next place I would go would be a Roth IRA, because there are no taxes due on that. And if you take out what you put in, there's no penalty.
Okay.
However, in the bill, you can now take money out of your retirement accounts without paying the 10% penalty up to a certain amount. I believe it's $100,000, and then you have 3 years to spread out paying the taxes on that money.
Hmm.
Now, don't quote me on the exact pieces of that. You want to go read the bill and you want to go talk to an accountant. But that's the generic way that it works.
Okay.
Which is wonderful, because without that, you'd have to pay taxes and a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that there is that opportunity is really huge. I know it exists. It's just the details that you want to check
Sure.
with.
Yeah. So we've covered a bit for the people who are in a financial, let's say, freeze right now and are looking at their finances. And you've talked a little bit in the beginning about people who want to get involved in the market and potentially things they can look at. But what about let's say like the in-between, where, the situation maybe is not affecting them as greatly as others, but they're watching their 401k drop and they're trying to think of ways that maybe to rebalance it or maybe to leave it alone. And I know you kind of alluded this in the beginning of just like, when in doubt, you tell people to leave it alone. But is there any circumstances where, let's say, somebody in the middle should be looking at their 401k or another investment account to potentially rebalance right now? Or is it better just to leave things alone and then re-look at it later on?
I do tend to stick with leave it alone if you did the work at the beginning. With 401ks, though, most people don't do the work at the beginning. Most people don't do the work in the middle. Mm. It's more of, that sounds good, or this person told me this, or this is what it automatically put me into. Mm-hmm. So even if people do some of the work, if you are, I'd say, under 50, mm-hmm. probably even edge older these days, but if you're under 50, that's an account that you know you're not touching until you're at least 59 and a half. Mm-hmm. And the required minimum distribution age has now been pushed up to 72 and a half, or 72, okay, from 70 and a half. So you're not even required to touch the money until you're 72. So if you do want to take risk, it's a great place to do it. There won't be any tax consequences when you rebalance or go into other funds.
Mm-hmm.
So I do tend to say when we're looking at someone's overall portfolio, that's where I like to focus risk a lot of the time. So I've been using 80-20 as an example. So if someone's overall risk tolerance is an 80-20,
yeah,
that means their overall risk tolerance not necessarily has to exist in that specific account.
okay,
So you might look at the bigger picture. And in this situation, I don't think I'd argue with someone who wanted to rebalance their 401k, but we would have to have a discussion about it. And I'd suggest they take a risk tolerance questionnaire.
mm-hmm.
Like, when in doubt, answer 10 questions. See what comes up. Because you might think you're okay with it until you put money in and then it drops 40% the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I've been saying to clients. Anyone who's putting money in, this is the salesperson in me, just be sure you're ready for it to drop in value immediately. But that's the disclosure I think has to happen from anyone at this point. No one should be putting money into the market unless they understand it can drop in value. Like I said, today is 4%.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't necessarily seem a lot when we're just talking, random numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a lot to your portfolio. So you really have to think about the consequences of your actions and how frequently you're looking at this account, when you're going to access it. And just, it's really your comfort level. And if you're being realistic, because a lot of people won't be realistic, go in, change their investments to be more aggressive. Then the market's going to take another tumble.
Mm-hmm.
They might freak out, sell those, and then buy back in at a lower cost, and they just lost a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes back to why I say if it was a good plan at the beginning, it's a good plan now. This is a major change, so it's worth reevaluating. But generally speaking, why would you want a plan that falls apart when things go wrong? We have plans to prepare us for this.
Right. So what I'm also interested in for the listeners here is, it's obviously, again, this is your full-time job and you spend a lot of time watching this and reading about this. Who are some people that you look to and read what they're writing about, or books or articles that people should also, potentially, if they want to get a little more financially savvy, they should also kind of look into these similar types of organizations or articles or books?
Actually, grabbing one that I'm reading now. So right now I'm reading a book called Safety First Retirement Planning, an integrated approach for worry-free retirement. I know it sounds fascinating.
Definitely.
I think it is. By Wade Pfau, Pfau.
Okay.
So I've been enjoying that. Now I'm going to tell you a secret.
Mm-hmm.
I don't read financial fiction, which is what I think most of the finance books are.
Mm-hmm.
They are, generally speaking, financial entertainers.
Okay.
They're not licensed. They've done research for sure. But if you read the book Pound Foolish, which I never remember who it's by, but this actually goes really in depth just as to who these financial pundits are and their history and if they have qualifications. So an example of why I don't necessarily hold specific cases too seriously. There's a Twitter and Instagram handle that called the White Coat Investor. I'm sure if he hears it, he'll roast me. He's a doctor who gives financial advice. That's it. He's just a doctor who gives financial advice and puts himself out as an expert. No kidding. If you read a lot of the articles that people like to post and repost, if you Google who the writer is, they don't do finance a lot of the time. Dave Ramsey, we can mathematically prove that some of his advice is inaccurate.
Oh.
Yorman doesn't take her own advice. Neither does Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
So I read, that's why I read books with like really interesting titles like Safety First Retirement Planning. There is also one called Cash is King. Wish I could remember who all of these are. I never remember authors. It's awful. The Pirates of Manhattan actually would be a fascinating one right now. It talks about whole life insurance and how it's involved in high finance. And the reason I say it would be specifically interesting right now is people are worried about the death toll, and our life insurance company is going to be able to cover it. And then how that affects also these large companies and where their tier one capital is held, and a lot of that is in life insurance cash value. So it's a really interesting way. I'm trying not to respond to you. So that, again, a very very specific read. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's based on like not true history that never happened to him. So
you've killed all of my dreams here. Well, not so much dreams, but yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't make everything that's in them wrong by any means. And, there's some of what Dave Ramsey says is definitely right. And some of what Susie Orman says, I imagine, must be correct. The problem that I have with a lot of these people is financial advising isn't their business. They don't benefit when people become financially well and successful. Their job is to have people watch their TV shows and buy their books. So it's important, especially with financial advice, to really be clear on who it's coming from. I love that now financial advisors are required, all of them, who have certain licenses, to be fiduciaries. I always thought that I was, but apparently now legally. It just means that we have to act with our clients' best interests put first, being a fiduciary. Those guys aren't fiduciaries.
Yeah.
So it's something to think about. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't make it all bad by any means. Anything that makes you think about your money is something, as long as you don't take all of it as advice. Once you take all of what I'm saying now and today as advice, not everyone fits into every category.
Yeah. No, that's good to know. And it's good to to separate the, let's say, the entertainment